right, Jen, welcome to the show. Tell us more about yourself.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. I am a big fan of Kenny Bedwell, so this is going to be amazing. A little background on me. I was a middle school music teacher for 16 years until I woke up one day and realized I hated children. So then I went to an equally abusive industry. I went into health insurance and I was quickly climbing that corporate ladder only to realize I was halfway up the wrong ladder. I was seeing people get let go, not because of poor performance. It was just because of restructuring in the Fortune 500 company. And I was like, I don't want a part of that. And I felt I needed to take control of my financial freedom, my financial future. And I got into real estate investing. I joined an education program and with my husband, who is an accountant. So he's the brains behind it. I'm clearly the looks of the business. And I'm obviously world famous, but so it has been an amazing ride. Once we started our education program, I was able to quit my corporate America job within 8 months and haven't even looked back. So it's been a fun ride.
Yes. Yeah. And so what all are you? So I mean, I've got your bio. It is, I mean, in a good way. It's long, right? Like it's good. What are you into today? Like this moment, this week, there are these weeks, like what have you been working on today?
So I coach for a coaching program called Rental Property Pro, and I coach students across the country how to invest out of state. A lot of students in California or Texas or wherever where the taxes are really high. So I help students, but it's long-term rentals. But then when I get a few of the short-term rental folks, I'm like, oh, pick me for your coach. So I am actively looking for another short-term rental right now. That's where I'm focused. We just bought a beach condo, and I know you are not a fan of condos,
Yeah.
but it comes with all of the amenities, which I don't have to maintain. So that's kind of why I really jumped in on this one. But we can break it down. You can tell me what I did wrong with this property, but we have that. And then we have a cabin just outside of Boone. And I watched one of your videos recently talking about your three places that are missed opportunities. And you mentioned, am I allowed to say it?
Yeah.
You mentioned West Jefferson.
Oh, yeah. West Jefferson. Okay.
So we are right between Boone and West Jefferson. We're in Todd, North Carolina. So I go to West Jefferson all the time. I was like, yes, because I agree that is an area that is amazing. But going back to your question, I'm down to just 2 short-term rentals. I had 5 at one point, one being a quad, and we sold the quad. It did not perform like I thought it would. So now we are putting all of our focus on getting another short-term rental because we're going to do a portfolio loan and group them together. We have a new build in downtown Raleigh that anyone shopping in the area, come check it out. It's a beautiful, beautiful home. And we try to save houses. This one had a lot of DIY. There is a hot tub in the master bathroom, or excuse me.
Bingo.
The primary bathroom. I know, fancy.
What's the ROI on that amenity?
This ended up and nothing was done through permitting. So we had to tear that property down and do a new build. We just sold a 12 unit in Southern Virginia. What else do we do? We have a brokerage here in Raleigh, North Carolina called the Acorn Agency. We have our flipping company, which we're not flipping anything right now. Our rental company. We have a construction company, and our company is called Jolific. So Jolific Construction, Jolific Home, Jolific Properties. And Jolific is our last name, Josie, plus the word prolific. So we do a little mashup. It helps with a website, so I don't have to write, we buy your homes in northcarolina.com or Jolific.com. So that's us in a nutshell, I guess. Yes. And I'm a podcaster as well. I met you because you are my podcast and we are neighbors. So can't wait to meet you in person. So
I know. I'm excited. So, you are doing a lot. We're going to dive into some of the specific stuff here, but, this is my curse, but I gotta ask. You said you're looking for another short-term rental, right?
I am.
Where are you looking?
I am looking within 3 hours. So, and I want it to be waterfront. So we got the beach condo, we have the mountain cabin. I like smaller properties for quicker turnover. And I want this one to be either on a lake or a river where I can do the upsells of, hey, rent a canoe or a kayak for $100 a day or whatever, $100 during your stay. Um, you know, Bikes to go right around, the area or whatever. So I'm really looking for something where people are going to, I like destination short-term rentals. And I follow a lot of what you say about you being smart in how you choose. So I like to be within 3 hours. I will go 4 hours if I have to, if the property is right, but that's what I'm actively looking for right now.
Are you, and you're doing smaller properties, are you looking in Virginia too, in South Carolina, or just North Carolina?
I like the Fancy Gap area up in Virginia. I do have a realtor up there who sends us properties every once in a while. Taxes are much better up there in Southern Virginia. I would go. I have a student who just got a condo in Myrtle Beach, which I was like, ugh, but it is cash flow and he's making a killing off this Myrtle Beach condo. So I'm not a fan of Myrtle Beach, but I'm not gonna, I'll keep looking anyway.
Yeah. That's love to see it. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Sorry. Yeah. We'll chat more about this later where you're looking. Cause that's all in my domain. I'm just always, when people are, I'm looking for an STR, I'm like, where are you looking? What are you looking for? How is it? Yeah. Just to learn. But anyway,
You go 3-bedroom, 2-bath, but I prefer 2-bedroom, 2-bath max. I prefer renting to couples, people traveling with dogs. We have dogs. We don't have children. Like I said, I'm allergic to children, but it's just an amenity. It's one of the top searched amenities is to allow pets. So I kind of want to focus on that. I eventually, like one of my 5-year goals is to do a micro resort, which is going to be land with some type of water feature in the middle and have some cabins, little A-frames, things like that. So that's kind of a 3 to 5-year goal for me. I'm always shopping for land in this area. We have beautiful, beautiful spaces here in North Carolina. So
yeah, I agree. I think Western North Carolina would be a good area to target that in for sure. So have I showed you the #1 ROI property in Gatlinburg?
No.
Okay. Remind me after the show. It's already been talked about on the show, but I have a special treat for you. It might be up your alley. I don't know. So listeners who know what I'm talking about, you're probably laughing, but I'm going to leave you the suspense for now. But after the show, I am going to show you and give you an idea. Because if you like small, like 1-2 bedrooms, and you're trying to target couples, I've got a really good example that you might be like, I could take that on, and no one else. I like to talk about moats, right? Like no one else is doing that kind of thing. So anyway. Okay. What I wanted to talk about at first is stuff to deal with construction, and you've done flipping, and you have your own construction company, and you do lots of renovations, and you update properties, and you know how this goes. In fact, we were even talking about you dealing with some contractors and window quotes that were misquoted or whatever before the show. But I wanted to, a lot of people are nervous about doing projects out of state, and dealing with contractors and not being screwed. Because I think everybody has some sort of horror story or heard of a horror story. And so I want to start there because you've done it before, and just leave it open-ended and say, how do you tackle something like that? I'm going to buy a property out of state and it needs to have some updates done to it. How do I know who to go with and what to ask contractors and all of that?
Thank you for asking this question. So the first place I go is I find Facebook groups where they are investors in that area. And I want to find investor-friendly contractors to work with. I'm not going to go into a Facebook group and announce, hey, I'm looking for a GC in this area, because everybody is looking for a GC. You have to be very specific. I'm looking for a painter who will quote me for a 1,200 square foot property with 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, whatever it is. I start there. I also see who the major players are in that Facebook group, whether it's a realtor in the area, it's just someone who is a good wholesaler who's wholesaling a bunch of properties in there. So that's where I start. And then a step further, I look for a REIA in that area, which stands for Real Estate Investor Association. And if you use those 4 letters, you have to kind of follow the code of, because you're kind of all grouped together. You're going to have a monthly calendar. You're going to have events throughout the month. It's going to cost about $350 to join it. So it's a little bit higher. It's not just a free one. So you're going to have higher quality people in there. That's going to be the next step up where I go to reach out to investor friendly. So I was telling you at the start of this call, I got a quote and fell off my chair. So our condo, which is in Curie Beach, North Carolina, we have to replace the sliders, and it's literally on the beach. You can get splashed with water on the balcony. So it is that close to the ocean. So it has to be impact glass and all this stuff, and has to be done a certain way. So the condo association has preferred vendors. So I'm like, all right, roll up my sleeves here and reach out to these preferred vendors. And what would normally cost us $350 per window, just a standard size window. Now, one of them is a little bit larger, about $350, maybe $400. And then my framers install them for between $100 and $150 a window. I got a quote to replace 3 windows, and it was $7,000. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? And they
sounds like a good deal.
Oh, half the money up front, which I'm like, no, we don't do that. So to go back to your listeners who, if you have to find contractors in a specific area where you're not located, reach out to realtors as well. They will have people who do punch list items, but definitely, reach out to those real estate investors in the area. Another one could be property management companies because they're used to doing the turnovers. But once you find a contractor, you have to make sure they are investor friendly, and you never pay anything up front. If they require that they need a deposit because of, they have to purchase materials, offer to pay the supply company directly. The one and only time I've ever been presented papers because I was getting sued was from a window company. Ironic that this happened to be a window company earlier today, because I trusted this one window installer to say, oh, but I get a cheaper rate. Just give me the money and I'll order the windows. So he did not pay the supply company. We were sued by the supply company. And for protection for the listeners, I'm going to get into this in a second, but we had what's called a lien waiver. So before I paid that window guy, I said, I need you to sign this lien waiver, which states that all materials and labor have been paid in full. So I'm holding his check. Sign this lien waiver, and then he gets the check. So to protect you, if you are investing out of state, or go ahead.
No, that's huge. Finish what you're saying, and then we're going to reiterate that again, because you're blowing my mind here. I'm like, where's my notepad? I'm like, oh my gosh. Go ahead. Finish what you were saying.
So important. I'm a big fan of Judge Judy. I'm Jen Josie. She's Judge Judy, the other JJ. I love me some Judge Judy. And she always says when there's a discrepancy between a contractor, she says, show me the contract. So that is number one. You need to have a contract. I use what we call my 6 critical documents. You have your W-9, you have your insurance indemnification form, your contract, your pay schedule, I already said W-9, your scope of work, and the lien waiver is the sixth document. So I call my 6 critical documents. The lien waiver is done at the very end when you're getting ready to pay them. So your contract, in the contract, it has to state things like, first first of all, a warranty has to be in there, at least a year for a warranty. But if they tell you it's going to be done on December 15th, I'm going to put in there, if the work's not completed beyond December 20th, I'll give them a 5-day buffer. I will deduct $100 a day from their pay. And it's written in the contract, and they will, oh, hold on. That's the first thing they see. And I say, well, you told me December 15th. I put December 20th. So you tell me what, do you want to change your date on there? And that just keeps everybody honest. In the contract says, I'm going to pay them on time, but they have to finish on time, because that's a huge one when you are, out of state and depending on them.
Holding costs,
What's that?
I said holding costs. You're paying mortgage, utilities, insurance for a property that's just sitting there, not making any money. So yeah, 100%.
So that contract is very, very important. The second item is the insurance indemnification. You do not want to hire a contractor that is not insured. There's certain contractors that have to have a license. A general contractor has to have a license, electrician, plumber, HVAC. I saw them all. So those have to have a specific license. If you're getting the floors redone, they just at least need to be insured. And it has to be up to $1 million. And so there's a form, insurance indemnification form, that they sign that states they're adding you to their insurance policy during the time of that construction is going on. And that's just to CYA, and at least it's in writing in case anyone gets hurt, because that can kill your whole short-term rental if you have someone fall and get hurt during the construction process, the renovation process. So that's the second form. The third one is going to be your scope of work. You need to be very specific on what you do. If you're buying a property out of state and maybe you never even stepped foot in it, before you close on that property, you need to get an inspection. And your inspector is going to go through and do a very detailed report of exactly what needs to be done with photos, referencing things. So that's what I will use for my contractors to say, this is what I need done to the property, and have it all documented. I can even ask that inspector after and pay them an additional fee, which is you pay them between $350 to $500 for an inspection, the most important thing when you're purchasing a property. And then I will pay them an additional one to go back, and they can follow up to make sure that all the work was done that they cited in their report. So got those three. Next is your payment schedule. If you're paying someone $10,000 for whatever it is, I may break it out into 5 payments. Say you're reframing something, whatever. You have to pay them by benchmarks, by certain specifics where they will, get the framing done. Then I will, pay you this. Next is going to be the rough-ins. Then I will pay you next chunk. And it's everything's spelled out. It's not, I'm going to pay you every other Friday. So this also keeps them honest. But if you're paying them $10,000, that first payment, I may make $3,000 incentive for them to get started. The middle 3 payments may only be about $1,000, we'll say. And then, so what is that? 3, 4, 5, 6. So then my last payment to them is going to be $4,000, because that is my incentive for them to get the job done. So you have your payment schedule, W-9, W-2. What am I saying that right?
I think it's a W-9. Yeah.
Sorry.
Or you do give them a W-9. Yeah, that's sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Keep going.
Anyone you pay over $600 for the year gets a W-9. And then the very final form that you're going to do is when you pay them at the end. And this, like I said, saved us from getting sued from this window supply company, is what's called a lien waiver. And all it is a form that says the contractor for this job has been paid in full for labor and materials. We both sign it, then they get their final check. So those are the biggies. When you're working with contractors, if you don't have a contract in there, forget it. And now I know I'm rambling, but to go back to this gentleman who I spoke to earlier today, I said, well, I'm going to have you sign a contract. Ma'am, we don't do contracts over here. Like, sir, yes, you are going to sign a contract if we're working together. So if you're running into an issue like I had earlier this morning, just walk the other way. This is a retail type contractor who's used to getting a deposit from retail clients. we are not retail clients, so we're going to have to find another way to get these windows replaced. So,
wow,
$1,000 for 3 windows. What? Anyway,
I know. That's yeah, that's crazy. That was a lot of good stuff there. Holy crap! I mean, it's funny because I'm sitting there going like, when you say something, you're like, get this contract, get this. And I'm like, I should have did that with this project. I would have had this problem. I mean, so one of my biggest screw ups with the short-term rental I did was, I can't believe this. And I mean, it was on them. But it was a theater room, and they, obviously they didn't get it done on time, and, all that, it took an extra month. But then I get the final bill, and it's 2 times what it was supposed to be in the contract. And I'm like, guys, like, what is this? And they're like, well, it took us a little longer and we had to do X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, what, like, why wasn't I told that this was going to be the cost? And they're like, well, you agreed to us, like, and I was like, I didn't agree to this number. I agreed to this number. And they were not having it. They're like, oh, you owe us this. And I was like, I didn't sign anything saying I did. And they just said, and I said, look, like, I understand, like, I asked you to do a few extra things, but you never sent me what the quote was. And so I agreed to, like, pay half of it because they did extra stuff. Like, I know it was going to be a little bit more, but not 2 times what I had originally thought, got the original quote for. But if we had it would, it's really good a work order. You know what I mean? It's like, look, if you're going to add these things, it's going to cost.
It's actually a change order.
Or change order, excuse me. Yeah, a change order. And I'm not, you should be educating me on this. But anyway, I mean, like, it was just silly, but I didn't know this stuff. You know what I mean? I was like, I didn't think that they would do something like that.
So, I mean, that's your scope of work. And I kind of brushed over that one aspect of it. Your scope of work is what you were, and again, I said, I pull it typically from the inspection report, but if I am changing a layout of a property, I have to be super, super specific. Mm-hmm. You put everything down to the SKU number for the paint you want on the trim. And, if you're painting the exterior of the house, make sure you're painting all 4 sides of the exterior. I had a student who on their scope of work said paint exterior, and the contractors only painted the front of the house.
Yeah.
Well, it said just paint the exterior. So we painted the front of the house. So you just have to be super specific in there. And that's where also in your contract, because you're putting in the contract exactly what is to be paid. And if there's anything that is changing, a change order should be submitted. So sorry that happened to you, but that is so very common. And, and it could also be one of those, like, a friend of mine calls them 500s. So, hey, we saw this behind the wall, and she's like, okay, and it'll be another $500. Well, if we were doing this, what if we added this another $500? So they 500 her to almost $10,000 over when she was doing this renovation. So those 500s add up. So
they do. I feel I'm in the middle of a renovation right now, and it's the same song and dance, but we go back. Okay, cool. Well, if we're going to add all this, like, we need to know what this is going to cost, And it was funny. The contractor I'm working with said, man, you're really into the numbers. And I was like, yeah, we have a budget. I was like, we can't, it's not infinity, He's like, oh, I understand. And I was like, yeah, we need to know, like, what this costs. Like, we're not just going to do it and hope for the best. So.
Can I add something as well along the lines of financing? So a lot of times we do the BRRR strategy. Are you familiar with the BRRR strategy? Yeah. Okay. So we will BRRR a property, meaning you buy it, you renovate it, you rent it, but it'll be short-term rented, then you refinance and then repeat. So when you're working with a hard money lender, they will typically finance 75 to 85% of the purchase price, but 100% of that rehab budget. That's where that scope of work is so very important, where it is by line item exactly what needs to be done. So we, going back to what you just said, have to be on top of our numbers, because that's all we are getting for that one line item through our lender. Because I don't have that laying around in my, I don't have these gorgeous properties in Kentucky bourbon trails like you do, bringing in all this money. So, we have to be on top of our numbers as well. But that's just a way to finance it. And then you refinance it into a DSCR loan, which I'm sure your listeners are quite familiar with. So,
yeah, that's man, that's all really, really good breakdown and a process. Okay, let's keep going into this. I think that okay. So number one, and my mind started to be blown when you were like, go into Facebook groups in that community. And I'm like, that's a great idea. Why didn't I think of that before? Like I was like, that's awesome. Like, and so this is really, really good. We're not going to end here. We're going to keep going, but I got to ask this because I'm going to forget. And I know someone's going to ask me later. They're going to send me an email and be like, Jen, like, I need to know. Do you have like these, do you have resources or whatever for people to get access to who are looking to know like what those documents are, or a step-by-step process or anything like that you could kind of put you on the spot on that one, but yeah.
So I run a mastermind as well, in addition to all the other businesses I was talking about. So my podcast is called RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network podcast, but the podcast evolved from a mastermind that I have. And as a member of my mastermind, I have a whole library full of those type of documents. I'm sure, though, if you Google 6 critical documents in construction for investors.
There we go. Yeah, that's good too.
And in addition to that, make sure you have an attorney in that state specific to go over that contract to make sure that it's covering all the, fine print in there, because that's super, super important. It's absolutely worth paying an attorney to make sure that it's worded correctly, especially if you're just pulling it off the internet.
That's a good point. Do you bring your own contracts to these contractors, or are you taking theirs and then do it? Like, what's your process?
So when you're working with investor-friendly contractors, you don't find them on the Google. You do not find them on Angie's List. You hear about them word of mouth. If they are on the Google, they are paying for the marketing and they drive the fancy trucks with all the stuff on the side. We don't work with those type of contractors. We want to work with contractors that they go from job to job to job, and we share them amongst each other, especially here in the Raleigh area. We have a crew that that we share.
I need to get plugged in with this crew ASAP, by the way, after this call.
So that's that's the best way. And then when and forgive me the term I use, when I'm pimping out my contractors, that actually helps me, because the more I recommend them, they're not paying for marketing. The more, when I need them in a pinch, I get bumped to the top of that list, because now they're saying, well, Jen keeps referring us out, keeps bringing us tons of business. We're able to keep our prices low because she's, providing us with all these extra jobs. So we will keep her prices low. I had a painter, by the way, who for the longest time, for about 5 years, only charged me $2 a square foot to paint all the interiors, including cabinets. This was for like quick renovations, $2 a square foot. So now you're going to be paying probably close to $350 a square foot for your interior painters. But man, I had him because I just kept spreading the word about him. And he's like, don't tell people I do $2 a square foot, because he would charge them like $250 to $3, but still right. Prices low for me. So there are lots of contractors who are dependent on investors to keep them busy. So that's, and plus they're so talented. And these are also, they're rough around the edges. They go into empty properties. They can go play their music late at night with the door shut when I tell them. They're not going into somebody's house where there's a woman there who says, I need you to paint my bathroom yellow. And then you paint it yellow. She's like, no, not that, not butterscotch yellow. I want canary yellow, or, a homeowner who can't make a decision. Whereas we come with a scope of work. We just work so differently. So we take a lot of their time. We save a lot of their time because we're telling them exactly what needs to be done. Here's, price per square foot, what we're doing, boom. And then they go quickly. So that's really how you find them. You're not looking in the places where you would normally look. So make sure you're making those connections with other investors in that area.
Yeah, it really does become a game of like who you know. You know what I mean? Like who you know in these areas rather than like what is online on Google or Angie's List or Thumbtack or whatever. Because that, I mean, I don't know, it's just risky when you take on those kinds of, individuals. And reviews can be faked. I've seen that on Google. It's bad. I've dealt with some of that too. So yeah, that's really helpful. What else, Jen? What other nuggets can you provide? Because this was all like super awesome stuff.
I just learned about the getting that inspector to go back to the property. That was a great nugget I learned not too long ago because, we had this 12 unit in Southern Virginia that took us a while to sell, and we put our trust into property management. That's a whole nother long story, which we shouldn't have done. But, when we had contractors, when we were paying contractors, we didn't follow up. We didn't go back through to make sure the work was done that we had just paid for. So having that inspector who will go by and do it rather quickly. It's also when you are working with that hard money lender, they will not release the funds, that draw schedule, until their person goes and inspect it. So that's a nice little way to, check up on it to make sure the work is done. But that's a really good nugget. Treat your contractors like gold. When you find one that is amazing, then you need to pay them on time. You need to keep your end of the promise as well. We used to do cervezas every Friday at 5 on our projects, and our contractors are like, "Oh, the gringa," and I'm like, "Loca." Here, and they are amazing, wonderful, wonderful people. Now they had to stop. They had to put their hammers down at that point once we did that. But you've got to treat. Oh, another good one when you have work sites. Like I said, I was a former middle school music teacher for 16 years. I thought my babysitting days were done. But another thing that we do is we post a code of conduct in our properties.
Wow.
So how we want them to behave while they're there. Sometimes a lender of ours, if we're working with private money lenders, they want to walk the property and see what's going on. There's rules. You turn the music down. There's no fighting. There's no arguing. Every day the property has to be broom swept. How you work your lockbox key. If you have the lockbox on a job site, you put the key right back into the lockbox, so it's not going in a pocket, and then you leave for the day and you're halfway, an hour away where you live, and realize the pocket's still in your house and in your pocket. The key is still in your pocket, if I could speak, and then the house is unlocked. So there's just general rules like that. That's been super helpful. Do one in English, one in Spanish as well. Those are my pretty good. If you have a short-term rental out of state, I'm sure your listeners know you need a great cleaning team, but the second most important person you need on your team is going to be your handyman. Someone who will go there, switch out that microwave light bulb because they're complaining they can't see the stove because the microwave light bulb went out, and pay them. One in our cabin just outside of Boone, North Carolina. It's a gentleman who lives in the neighborhood, and I pay him $50 every time he goes over there. There's light bulbs in the closet, so he can just go and swap them out. But he's like, "Stop paying me $50, Jen. It's just a light bulb." I'm like, "No, you are so important to me, and I'm going to pay you just for going over there because we have to keep our guests happy." Now, I should probably be paying a little bit more than $50, but again, it's literally just a shuffle down the street for him. So those are. You want to also treat them like gold and make sure that you pay them for their time. And anyway,
I think that's like the secret sauce, and making short-term rentals a little more passive is having a good team, right? Reliable, so that when you are in a pinch, they're going to jump up and help you. It's not like, "Oh yeah, we'll get to you when we get to you." It's like, "Nope, Jen's on the phone. What do you need?" So I love that. Well, Jen, as we're kind of wrapping up the show here, this is all really fun. I love to ask this question at the very end. What is the name of the show is Cash Flow Positive. What's one tip? It could be about what we talked about. It could be anything you want. What's one tip people can cash flow positive with their short-term rentals?
I would just say provide that experience. When you are helping whoever's staying in your property, you're making memories for them. Mm-hmm. And you are only going to be increasing that tenfold by making them just love your property, love the whole experience, and have that memory for their lifetime. So I think cash flow positive, I don't know if this is the right answer for, what a typical guest says, but that to me keeps my cash flow flowing positive because they're going to leave that 5-star review. If it's Airbnb, they are going to be repeat guests. They are going to know how things work. It's just, that's why we get into this business. If you're getting into the short-term rental business because it's a machine and because this area is so profitable and you have a Barbie theme, whatever. And because that's what everybody does, but you're not in it to really for the guests. It's a hospitality, it's a relationship business. And to me, I think that is what boosts my cash flow, especially from these short-term rentals.
I love that. I really do. I think when my team, we had a conference we went to in Nashville, and I had my entire team come, and we stayed in this in Nashville. There's a lot of these like townhome apartment whatever buildings or whatever as short-term rentals. And there was a property management company that was managing the ones we were staying in. And we had two side by side, and they told us beforehand, oh, we just like themed them out like Taylor Swift or whatever, because it's like the popular theme now. And we walk in there, and it's just like the weirdest design and decor. Like literally, like there was a pillow that was like, and it was like a small pillow because they cheapened out, right? It wasn't even like good design. It was just like really cheap. It was like this big, and it was in the shape of lips. It's like red lipstick because, Taylor Swift's known for that. And just stupid stuff like that. And you're like scratching your head like, all right, like if I like Taylor Swift, I'd appreciate the art or like some of the stuff in here. But like really, like, like the lips, like that's just impractical, for a guest experience. And it really wasn't about the experience.
I got to tell you, though, because Nashville is the number one location for bachelorette parties. So yep. I recently was like, because it's about 4 hours out. It's a little further out of my range, but one of the properties that was for sale was a Barbie themed townhouse there.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't do it.
No. And look, like I have nothing against like somebody doing a Taylor Swift thing or a Barbie themed thing. And those are probably good, but I've seen it done professionally right. And then I saw that, and there's a big difference between the two, And so I do think what you said about the guest experience and having that involved is absolutely critical. So no, this has been really, really, really fun. I enjoyed having you on the show. You actually remind me, your construction knowledge is really freaking good. I'm glad I asked you about it. I was looking through your stuff, and I was like, she seems to know a lot about this one. You're in a lot of different things. I was like, this one thing, I think she's going to rock at. And yes, I was right. I know people are going to find a lot of value in this. So thank you so much for being on the show and sharing all that information with us.
Well, thank you for everything that you do, because as a podcaster, I know how hard it is to do these, and I have really enjoyed speaking with you. I hope I get you back on my podcast because I have so much more to discuss with you. And I did one of your webinars recently, and one of my mastermind students was in your webinar that you just did recently. And I was like, hey, so you are doing fantastic things.
Thank you.
I just appreciate all that you do as well. So thank you, Kenny.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I really do. Lastly, Jen, I think people will definitely want to learn more about your mastermind, your podcast, your stuff. So what's the best way for people to get in touch with you or to learn more about what you do?
Well, I'm really trying to grow my YouTube channel. So if you all could go to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network YouTube channel, and subscribe, that would be wonderful. If you want to reach out to me.
And Rain, I want to be clear because I already know the answer, but I need you to spell it out for us because
REIGN, Real Estate Investor Growth Network. So actually spelled properly. There's the women's Rain, but it's not spelled with a G. But this one, it's a mastermind as well. It's my podcast as well. But if you just have questions for me, you can reach me at therealjenjosie.com. And my last name is Josey. And it's Jen with one N. That's a Southern thing. I'm from Florida. I know you're from New York. We only have one N on the Jens. And then I moved to North Carolina and everyone's like JENN. I'm like, what is with that?
the Jen.
Josie.com. So reach out, and if you have questions, I'm happy to help you. If you want to get your hands on some of the critical documents that I was discussing, just shoot me a message on there. There's a way to reach out, and I'm happy to send those to you.
Awesome. Great. Yeah. Well, hey, it was fun having you on the show. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, and thank you everybody for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you on the next episode of Cash Flow Positive.